So yesterday we solved all of these problems, but the way we solved it was by a way called graphing. So what you did yesterday was you solve for y, you put it in your calculator, you hit second, calc, intersect, enter, 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 and boom, that was your answer. So today you're going to do the same thing. Your answer is still going to be like 3, 4, negative 1, 2. It's still going to be a point. You still have 2 lines, but we're going to be solving it a different way, and this way is called substitution. Someone asked in this class yesterday, do I have to know how to do all the ways? And the answer is yes, okay? The reason why you have to know all the ways, even though you love yesterday's way and you think it's easy or whatever, is because on the STAR test, they're going to ask you like, what work is correct if I solve it this way by substitution? So you have to know how to do substitution because you have to see which work is the correct substitution work, okay? There might be some of us that need a separate sheet of paper today to show your work because you might not have enough room on your level work to write teeny tiny, and that's fine, okay? So let's just do that, all right? I can give you line paper if you need. So what I'm actually gonna do first is I'm going to take the bottom of my paper and fold it up. So can you do that? Just so we have lots of room for our level work too. So take the bottom of your paper and fold it up. Yes, Kip?
If we use extra scratch paper, do we have to submit the scratch paper?
Yes. So Kip asked, if you use extra scratch paper, do we have to submit it? Yeah. So all you have to do is just put it right next to your level work. So you're not taking an extra picture. You just have one picture with 2 papers in it instead of 1 paper in it. Okay. But yeah.
Have to take 2 pictures just from them.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do this. I'm going to solve this by substitution. My final answer is going to be something, comma, something. I have an X number and a Y number. So I just have to figure out what it is. Now, this is kind of hard for you to wrap your brain around. Okay. It's hard every year for kids. So just hear me out. Okay. You have 2 equations. If you're solving by substitution, what you're doing is you're replacing one of the letters, X or Y, into the other equation. So do you see how like for number 1, they've solved for X, like X equals blah, 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 blah. So they're telling you that if you know what X equals, take what X equals and replace it or substitute it into the other equation when you're solving for this one. So let me say that again. What you need to do is you need to solve for X or you have to solve for Y. Well, it looks like they already did that, right? They already solved for X here. So it's good. Now that I have X solved for, I'm going to take all of this and replace it for X because that's what X equals. So let me rewrite this thing. I have 2X. Oh, I know what X equals. X equals 5 minus Y. So I'm going to write in parentheses 5 minus Y. So I'm replacing this X with all of that because that's what X equals. And then keep writing my equation, plus 5Y equals 4. So here's my new problem. Notice how I only have one letter now. I only have a Y. So I can easily solve for Y then. So distribute. So I have 10 minus 2Y plus 5Y equals 4. It looks like I can combine like terms because they're on the same side. So I have 10, negative 2 plus 5 is positive 3. So plus 3y equals 4. And now I'm going to solve for y. So what's the first thing I need to do? Subtract 10, minus 10 on both sides. Always move the thing that's farther away. So the 10 is farther away than the 3. So I have 3y equals negative 6. Then I have to divide both sides by 3. And I get y equals negative 2. So that's my first answer. Y equals negative 2. So I'm going to go back to my answer. And the first part of my answer is negative 2.
So now we have to solve for X.
So now I have to solve for X because I don't know what that is. But that's actually easier. So when I solve for X, all I have to do is take my Y and just plug it in one of these. Plug it in any one. You can plug it in the top one or the bottom one. Honestly, it doesn't matter. So normally what I say is plug it in the one that looks easier, like looks shorter, doesn't have as much going on. So would it be easier to plug it in the top one or the bottom one? Top one, right? Because that just doesn't look as messy. So I have X equals 5 minus Y, and we just said that Y was negative 2. So 5 minus negative 2 is 5 plus 2, which is 7. So X equals 7. So my final answer is 7 comma -2. And that's it. I think the hardest thing about substitution is you setting it up to this step, you wrapping your brain around, wait, how do I even start it? Because once you start it, I think you can solve it. That's just algebra. Okay. Now, how do we double check our answer? Because there you can double check every single one of your answers and you can see if you got it right. Okay. The way you double check is you have an X and you have a Y and you plug it into both equations, just like how we did yesterday. So like for this one, I have 5 minus y, 5 minus -2. Does that equal x? Yes, that does equal 7. So let's plug it in this one. 2 times x, which is 7, plus 5 times y, which is -2. Does it equal 4? Yes. So since it works for both of them, I know I got it right. Okay. So let's try another one. So fold your paper down. I'm just going to, well, darn it, I took too much space here. That was counterintuitive. But let me just try with this one now, okay? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to solve by substitution. So first thing you have to do is you have to solve for x or you have to solve for y. You can solve for either letter. So this one, do you see how they already solved for x or y? So I really didn't have to do anything. This one, I don't have x or y solved for. It doesn't say x equals, it doesn't say y equals, so I actually got to do that work. Okay, so what you want to do then is look at the one where you just see like a single x or a single y, and it's easier to solve for. So do you see how like this top one looks a little simpler? Like it doesn't look like there's so much going on. So couldn't I easily solve for x if I wanted to just add y on both sides? Couldn't I have just solved for x? Won't x just have been x equals -2 plus y? Does that make sense what I did? I just took my first equation. I grabbed this one because it just looked easier. And then I tried to solve for an x or I tried to solve for a y. If I just add y to the other side, boom, I have x solved for. So now that I have x solved for, this is what x equals. I'm going to take this and replace it in that equation. So does anyone think they can raise their hand and tell us, how do I rewrite this whole thing but replace it with this? What do we think? Cameron?
I just have a question.
Yes.
Would you be able to, like, for the first equation, would you be able to solve for y instead of x?
Sure, you can solve for y and you would still get the same answer, but then Cameron, you would have to subtract x and then divide by -1. So you might make a silly mistake, but you might not. So yeah, you can solve for either x or y. Okay, yes, Emily.
3 times -2 plus y minus y equals 2.
Perfect. Okay, so let me repeat what she said. Hey, Mason, you can go in the hall. You don't have to stay in here. That probably would be less distracting. So 3 times x. Well, what is x? X is all of this, right? So let's replace this with x. So 3 times -2 plus y, and then just minus y equals 2. So I just rewrote this whole thing, but then I just have x. Okay. So now I'm going to distribute. Okay. So I have -6 plus 3y minus y equals 2. I'm going to combine like terms. So I have -6 plus 3, yeah, plus -1, or 3 minus 1 is 2y equals 2. And let's go ahead and solve for y. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides. I get 2y equals 8. Divide by 2 on both sides. I have y equals 4. Oh, that's the first part of my answer. So my answer is something comma something. My y is 4. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back.
Do you always solve for y first?
No, you don't always have to solve for y first. So Cameron actually wanted to solve for x in this equation. So if she ended up solving for x, she would have had the x's answer and not the y's answer.
So do you just solve for whatever's easier?
Yeah, just solve for whatever's easiest in your head. Yep. Okay, so now remember how we get the x one? We just plug it back into one of these original ones. Okay, the original ones that you haven't like tampered with yet. So which one would it be easier to plug in, the top one or the bottom one? The top one, because it just looks easier. I mean, if you plugged it into the bottom one, you would still get the same answer. But I mean, I don't know, the top one looks easier. So you have x minus y, we said y is 4, equals -2. Notice how I plugged it into the top one before we messed with it, like the original top one. So now it looks like I'm going to add 4 on both sides. So I get x equals +2, and that's my answer. 2 comma 4. I can plug it back in and double check. Hey Garrett, why don't you take this paper from me so you don't have to. Thank you. Okay. Now let's do one where we have to do a word problem. Okay. A theater earns that many from a concert. An orchestra ticket costs 3 times as much as a balcony ticket. So it looks like I'm selling that many, I'm selling that many. So a system of equations means that I have 2 equations. So I have 2 equal signs. So think of the numbers that you're working with. And remember what I said yesterday, what you want to do is you want to find your totals. Like what is your total numbers that you see in here? Because it looks like I have a bunch of these. Okay, so can someone raise their hand and tell us, out of this, what is the total number? Kip?
148 and 76.
So like you're saying it equals 148 and it equals 76?
No.
Okay.
Does it equal 300 or 3,060 or 3,640?
Yes, so that's a total. You earn a total of that many.
It's like 224.
You're overcomplicating it. So here's the total, 3,640. For what though? For orchestra and balcony tickets. So do you see how like the 148 and the 76 go in the same like sentence as this? Because this total of $3,640 is because I sold 148 seats here and 76 seats here. I need letters. So let's just say X, let's just say Y. If I reverse them and I wrote Y and X, I would still get the same answer. Okay, so I would say this is X, this is Y. What symbol do you think needs to go between? Plus, because you're adding them together to get a total of 3,600. Okay, you still have this sentence, an orchestra ticket costs 3 times as much as a balcony ticket. So there's really no other total number. I'm comparing orchestra tickets, which is X, with balcony tickets, which is Y, but one is 3 times as much. So in other words, what I'm saying is I have to times one of them by 3, and this is the confusing part because everyone always reverses it. Which letter, if orchestra costs 3 times as much, needs to be multiplied by 3? Luis? That's what everyone gets confused with. The Y. Okay, so let me say Y. Let me say Y is Y. All right. So we said that X was orchestra and we said Y was balcony, right? If an orchestra ticket costs 3 times as much, doesn't that mean that this number is bigger? So if this number has to be bigger because it costs 3 times more, I'm not multiplying 3 by the bigger number to get the smaller number, right? Don't I have to multiply 3 by the smaller number, the cheaper ticket, to get the bigger answer? 3 times something is going to give you the bigger answer. That's why it's always reversed. You have to multiply it by like the smaller one to get the bigger answer. Okay, so now we wrote the equation. So now what we're going to do is it says, what is the price of each type of ticket? So essentially what they're asking us is solve it, get something comma something as your answer, and then figure out how much of each type of ticket you solve. Okay, so let's solve by substitution. Solve for X or Y. Oh, this one already has solve for X, right? So if this is what X equals, I can take all of this and replace it when I rewrite it here, because that's what X equals. So just take this and replace it there because I'm substituting it in. I'm replacing it in. All right, someone other than Emily, do you think you can rewrite this entire thing for us? What would that look like? Jack, go.
148 on 300.
Keep going. 3 times Y is 3Y. Same thing.
Then plus 76 more.
Keep going.
equals 3,000.
Good. So do you see what Jack did? He literally just took this, what x equals, and plugged it in for x. So it looks like before I can start solving anything, I can just multiply 148 times 3. That gives me 444. So I get 444y plus 76y equals 3,640. I can combine like terms. I have 520y equals 3,640. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 520. Yes, Vaughn? Okay, so you don't understand why I got 444? Is that what, or you don't understand how I got 520?
No, I did I got that too, but when you distribute it, why did you distribute like aren't you supposed to distribute it like
Oh, are you saying why didn't I get like 444 plus 148y?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is why. So 148 times 3y is different than 148 times 3 plus y. When I distribute this, I get 2 parts of my answer. But here, do you see how everything is connected by a times? So it's just like multiplying 148 times 3y, which is connected. That's why you get just all of 444y. Whereas this one, there's a plus in between. So that would be 444 plus 148y. Does that make sense, Vaughn?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Cameron?
why would you like multiply by 3 y? Because then I get a normal equation and you can't like do that, right?
So you're multiplying by 3y because when you set up this problem with the equations, 3y is what x equals. So if this is x, I'm replacing what x equals right here. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So did anyone divide that yet? I haven't gotten a chance. 7. Awesome. So y equals 7, y equals 7. Okay. So now remember what I have to do. Just go back into my equation. Which one is easier to plug in this time?
The bottom.
The bottom, because it looks just smaller, easier, right? So I have x equals 3 times y is 7. So what does x equal? 21. So my final answer is not 21 comma 7. I have to like write it in words. I have this many of this ticket. I have this many of this ticket. So what would my final answer be then? What do we think? Sienna, go.
21 orchestra and 7 balcony.
That is my answer. Okay, not the point, but actually writing it out. 21 X's. What did we say X was? Orchestra. 7 balconies. What did we say balcony was? Y. Okay, and then number 4, we'll skip. All right. I think that some of you are going to have a really, really hard time with this. And from this point moving forward, if you're not doing your homework and not practicing just a little bit beforehand, okay? So please keep that in mind. We're skipping number 4. Okay, level work. I guess because I don't want to be a Scrooge, even though Halloween is on a weekend, it doesn't even matter. It's not like you have school tomorrow, so you don't have to do your homework tonight. You can do it tonight. You can do it Sunday if you have diabetes on Saturday. I guess let's skip some. So on your level work, please skip 1, 2, 3. On your level work, please skip 10. Go to the back side. I'm crying as I am asking you to cross these out. On your level work, please cross out 11 and 12. On your level work, please cross out 15. All right. No whining and crying. I literally have given you 7 problems for level work, okay? You have level work. Yes, you have to show work on every single problem. If you can't write teeny tiny like an ant, I highly suggest that you just use a separate line sheet of paper. I can hand some out if you don't have any. I'll do that right now, okay? So you have these 6 problems. Of course, you have to show your work. And then the word problem, of course. Do you want me to set it up with you? Do you think you're still kind of iffy on that? Yes, all right. If you think that you're perfectly good with word problems, then close your ears and start working. If you want help on the word problem, then let's do it together, okay? So, a biology,
Still a linear equation?
yes. A biology test is worth 100 points and has 36 questions. Multiple choice are 2 points each. Essay questions are 6 points each. How many questions are on each type of the test? So, write the equation. So before you can even like solve, you have to write the equation. So you have 2 equal signs because you have 2 equations. Now, first thing I normally want to do is find my totals. Out of these 4 numbers, which is the total? What do we think? Luke?
136.
What did you say?
136.
Thank you. So Kayla, turn around really quick, please. So 136, because I have a total of 100 points. I have a total of 36 questions. So 100 talks about points, 36 talks about questions. Now I have 2 points, 6 points. Points and points and points and points and points. So does it go on the top one or the bottom one?
Oh.
Top one, because it's points, right? Points goes with points. So 2 points, 6 points, that goes with the top equation. I don't have an X and a Y, so let's just name them. Multiple choice is X, essay is Y. So 2X, 6Y. If you reversed it, that's fine. You would still get the same answer as me, okay? And what symbol goes in between? Plus, because you're adding them together to get a total of 100 points. Eek, I just used up all my numbers. I have nothing left, but I still got to figure this out. Can someone raise their hand if they think they know, like, what I can write here then? Vaughn, what do you think?
Right, but I just did X plus Y equals 36, and then I converted it to an X plus B points, and I got Y equals 36 minus X.
Yeah, so hold on, stop right there. So this is what the equation is, X plus Y, because you have 36 questions. 36 of what type of questions? Multiple choice and essay. And that's it. That's Y equals 36. Now, Vaughn is saying, but then I solved for Y, but that's when she's actually starting to solve right now, okay? So she, like, this is not your answer. Like, you're not done with letter A. Now you basically have this question, right, where you have to now solve using substitution. And that's what Vaughn was saying at the end. Okay, now I think